Oh, hello, and welcome to Al Dente Rigamortis. I'm Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey, the E stands for evil.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories, most creepy and most pasta, and be critically silly doing it. And tonight we have Evergreens in an Endless Autumn. So, Evergreens in an Endless Autumn is by MakRalston on creepypasta.wiki. So you can check it out there. And yeah, let's just dive into this one with the starting with the initial recommendations. I'm going to recommend this one.
I am going to partially recommend this one.
And I will also recommend this one.
All right. Well, let's see exactly why we all recommended or partially recommended it. Starting with the rundown. I'm not going to feature The Rock because, although, I got to tell you guys something later that happened as a result of us doing The Rock thing. But
okay.
Yeah, I'm. It's just, it's a hard gimmick, guys. Anybody listening?
Yeah.
So I'm going back to Nair Ator.
That's fair.
Because
that's fair, Ator.
Yeah. Critically silly.
Yep.
But yeah, so Nair, because we never get the name of the person who's narrating this, chronicles his existence as summer ends and a seemingly endless autumn begins and continues for 6 months. So far, anyway. It starts with a swift cycling of the sun across the sky, a cool breeze, and a strange blue sky that bleeds over the land of Nair's town, Valley Gleam. At first, the leaves all change very quickly before falling to the ground, and gourds and pumpkins begin growing at alarming and mutative rates. There's a sickness that starts taking people, turning them into orange rotted husks, while others seem immune to it. Cattle and animals die, buried by several feet of dead leaves and consumed by fungal growths. Eventually, after a week of chronicling these rapid days of darkness, the week turns to weeks and then to months, with the survivors huddled in their homes or braving the outside with that void blue sky and dragging the putrid husks of the dead out to the bonfires to get rid of the smell. The fortunate, or unfortunate side of things, is the survivors are able to live off the endless pumpkins, gourds, and corn, though people's sanity have been understandably dropping. The only greenery left in the otherwise blue and orange landscape are the evergreen pine trees. And in a way, the survivors are like those evergreens in an endless autumn, waiting or dreading the arrival of spring that, if it does come someday, may bring new horrors. Finn! So, that was, Evergreens in an Endless Autumn. You can check it out on creepypasta.wiki. And, let's jump into our next segment, shall we?
Alrighty then. Everyone
tolerates the Graham Inquisitions! At this point, I've got a couple. Going to start with this one here. One such great squash of the Connecticut fields had, by that point, eclipsed the tire of my 68 Chevy, like it were the moon. It has since engulfed it. The tire or the car?
I'm assuming the tire
or the moon. Or the moon. Oh God! No, don't get me wrong. I love this affectation to the writing, like how they're using these flowery prose and stuff like that. It gives the story a lot of character, but it also leaves some room for silliness and silly questions on account of some of the vagaries. Also, this is a quick aside, kind of dip into actual thoughts for a second. I'm sorry. We get a rough state location, and So I had to look up if Valley Glen, Connecticut was a real place. Shocker, it isn't.
Not gonna lie,
Still,
the first time I read it, I thought it was Valley Glen, and then I never read it ever again. So I assumed it was that until this morning.
nice.
I was paying attention when I was reading. Shut up. Who says I wasn't?
Still, I do like how the story does give us these like little context clues throughout as to where and when this might be. I think the vagueness in that regard is to the story's benefit personally, but like sometimes the vagueness does kind of cause some issues with like, somebody reading it and just like what is engulfing. Like obviously it's not actually eating the car or the tire, or is it? Back on that
Growing
later.
around it, akin to how like a tree would grow around a light post.
Well, I was even thinking just like it's engulfing it in terms of like it's now become larger, like it's engulfed it in size.
Oh, maybe.
Not like it's being like
It
that
could
kind of
have
like
literally grown into it, though,
it could have, it could have literally
depending
eaten
on
the
the
Chevy.
speed of how these are growing.
Yeah, exactly. Because they are like growing at an alarming rate, and then like one even like rolls down a hill and takes out the power by smashing into a power line. So, but I'll move on to the next thing. What?
What? Are you going to mention that engulfed is italicized?
I'm sorry.
Is it? Oh, so okay. It is. Why? Why? Why is it Why is engulfed italicized? I'm like scouring the rest of the stories. Like, is there anything else italicized? Because like,
It's probably just to make emphasis on it. Like maybe it should be bolded.
Yeah.
It has since engulfed it.
That
it's
old
equivalent
chestnut.
to doing all caps.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like, or it's like, that old chestnut. Maybe it shouldn't be italicized because none of us really noticed except for for Mikey. Maybe it should be bolded.
Yeah. Also, it wasn't a chestnut; it was a gourd or a pumpkin, I believe.
That was a play on word. Okay, I'll move on. Gonna go on to the next thing here. So Clarabelle was always Mama's pig, and I had taken the bell around her neck with me as I plodded back up to our home, reverently holding it in my shivering hands and wondering how to break the news to my wife that all the livestock, including her prized pig, were now dead. But there were bigger problems inside. Oh, okay, so at this point in the story is when I realized so Mama and Nair's wife are actually the same person.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have a note on that.
And to be fair, I have heard that colloquialism where like a farmer, especially like in the older times, will call their wife Mama, especially if they had children at one point or if they're like an older like couple and stuff like that. Still, it was odd here. It was odd for me to like hear because as they never bring up children, and I believe there is a line that made me especially think that Mama and the wife were two separate people. I think it was when like he was calling for the doctor and getting poor Mama some water. Though rereading that sentence again, I realized that it also it does kind of insinuate that like Mama and the wife are the same person.
Yeah.
At first,
I thought it was literally like his mother.
Yeah.
Then when it turned out to be he called the wife Mama, at that point forward, I just imagined Nair as Johnny Bravo.
Yeah, Mama, I'm going fast. Oh no! Oh, Mom! Oh, okay. I was thinking.
What the hell are you talking about?
Will Ferrell's NASCAR racing character from that one movie that he played. It's like, yeah, no. You're the. Sorry, I saw.
Talking about Home Mama.
Yeah, Home Mama. Yeah.
Yeah, the cartoon.
I apologize. Yeah,
you should.
But yeah, so it took me a second, or it took me to that point in the story to realize, that's a colloquialism, like a farmer colloquialism for like the wife or the old lady, or like
this is a super dark Halloween episode of Johnny Bravo, where it's a glimpse into his future when he actually found a woman who could tolerate him and settled down with her and became a farmer.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's like he can't have happiness, so like so all this horrible stuff happened. This cosmic horror happened.
Pretty much.
Yeah. This is actually a lost episodes creepypasta. The lost episode of Giant Bravo.
It is now.
But yeah, that's the end of my my grammar inquisition. So I hand the torch and pitchfork over to Mikey. E stands for evil.
All right. Well, you did a fairly good job. So,
Thank you.
I have a run-on sentence. That
Okay,
this
we don't
story
have a
is
pitch for
littered with.
that.
This story is run-on sentence. Has a lot of run-on sentences, so
Yeah.
I just chose one, just because it annoyed me.
Fair.
The continued gusts of cold air struck the windows and rolled some of the gourds down the hills like oblong bowling balls. And the surges of power they caused by snapping power lines throughout Valley Glen rendered my CPAP breathing machine useless, and I dared not sleep that night without it.
That's pretty long.
Yeah, that's pretty long. Also, I just have to add this because I don't want to reread that sentence again. The attack of the Killer Great Pumpkins. The attack of the Killer Great Pumpkins.
Yeah.
Like, when I was reading the story, it was like pumpkins rolling down a hill, like going after, like destroying like a town is like basically the premise of Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, where there's just tomatoes rolling down a street, attacking people. So,
yeah, I think the second movie was better.
probably. I mean, to be fair, they're all
Anyway.
parodies of like 50s horror and stuff, but yeah.
Yeah. All right, and then I have a conjunction junction.
Ooh. And next stop, conjunction junction. Doot, doot.
It is an eternal blue. It was a heavy rain, heavier than any other that summer. Yet from where we were perched, Mama and I were dry as bones. It was a crisp air, nearly as crinkled as the leaves beneath our boots, and as cool and nippy as we had hoped for after the dog days had ended. It is as if a sponge has been left to soak in a bucket of paint, and day by day what little hint of orange or yellow remained in that sky slowly rots into blackish blue. It is not only the sky that rots, however, but the trees, the grasses, and the rest of summer's flora. It has since engulfed it. And that yellow spectre, too, despite having only just arisen, reared his glistening head for what seemed to be only moments before ducking beneath the horizon again and shading the land in pitch black darkness. It was that ever so green that was a comfort in some strange way to the both of us, though the companionship of that tinge was only shortly lived. It wasn't her. But there were bigger problems inside. It now hurt to stare at for long periods, and the mere color dug into my jaw and rang the drums of the ears. It seems that even Dr. Sampson believes his rantings. Finn.
Wow. That really like drew on like what I'm probably going to bring up later about like the color out of space or whatever thing. Like it really drew on like the color being like the presence and the force of all their misery and stuff. Like it was that was like mostly the color.
Yeah, everything else was fine. It was just the colors were weird. God turned up the saturation and like
basically, yeah, and then just like paused reality.
Yeah.
So that's just one season eternally. Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty much. And for those unaware, Mikey does these It stories to highlight all the sentences that start with words that they probably shouldn't, like its, ands, or buts, because there's always better words to use.
Indeed. All right. And Gamer, do we have a grammar in yellow?
Yeah, a little bit.
Cool.
This first one, I feel like there's just some missing info. The quote is, the surges of power they caused. I'm assuming this is talking about the lightning. I probably should.
Oh no, that's the I think that's the oh, maybe
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, sorry, when the oblong bowling ball, like the pumpkins rolling down the hill and crashing into the power lines.
Oh, okay. Either way, the surges of power they caused by snapped power lines throughout Valley Glen rendered my CPAP breathing machine useless, and I dared not sleep without it. Thus ended the third day of autumn. The morning that followed, I had awoken with strain in my eyes, blah, 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 blah. So it's not said that the power became stable or not. Like, did Nair wait? Or did he just go to bed without, and like hope for the best without his CPAP breathing machine? Like, it's not stated. It says, like, I need to sleep with this. I have to. I'm going to go to bed without this now. Like, immediately after that.
Yeah, it definitely should have, it's like,
throwing caution to the wind, I went to bed anyways, or something like that.
Yeah, it's like, I dared not. Yeah, the end. I dared not sleep without it. It's like, okay, so I guess you're gonna die in a couple of days
from lack of sleep.
Yeah, because that's what happens.
Yeah.
Or like you're going to fall asleep eventually. So like maybe bring that up or something.
Or you're gonna turn into a monster like the Russian sleep experiment taught us.
Oh God.
Yeah. Call back.
Wow. From like 7 years ago. 8.
Yeah.
Let's be fair. That's actually closer to. That's 9 years ago.
Yeah.
And then you already
like that's one of the few ones that like left an imprint, you know.
And it's funny is that you weren't on the.
Just...
I'm assuming you're making it off of your Patreon episode because like you weren't in the original episode that reviewed that story.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What's the other one that was like that had DK movie?
Oh, it was like something experiment. I could look
Russian
it up.
Russian sleep experiment.
No, God damn it.
It was also sleep related.
Yeah, it was. I think it was another sleep experiment in America though this time around. I'm actually going to look up on my listing.
Wait, it should be like one of the early episodes I was in.
Next.
Probably have it in my archives because yes, I have archives.
It was the sleep paralysis experiment, or no, it was the Harbinger experiment.
There you go.
That's what it was. Yeah, because it was the Harbinger experiment, which was episode 168.
Yep. And we're at episode what now?
We are bordering onto 500 episodes. I think we're on like 491, 90. This episode will be 493.
God damn.
Also, that was back in 2017 when we did that episode. So,
yep,
yeah,
eons ago.
It's been a while.
Mm-hmm. But I shall move on.
Mm-hmm.
The bent over them like crooked, jagged guardian angels were the barren trees that spread their leaves far and wide, so far and wide that not even a blade of browning grass saw the sun. So for me, I was having a conflicting visual here. Because when I hear barren tree, to me, I see that like there's no leaves on it at all. Yet when I first read this, it sounded like it's saying that the leaves on them were casting so much shadow that it blotted out the sun, basically.
But that's not what it's supposed to be.
No,
it's meaning
what I eventually realized after having to think about this is I made the wrong assumption here. And for clarity, it should say something like, the barren trees that had dropped their leaves far and wide.
Yeah.
Because spreading the leaves, yes, that is what they're doing, but that has multiple definitions.
Yeah.
You know, because like this is also like a supernatural weird season of like weirdly growing plants. So what's to say that the trees didn't like continue to grow and spread out the leaves more? Like spread their branches more, basically.
Yeah, like I understand, like it's like I see what you meant, like you made the wrong assumption, but I can see why you made that wrong assumption. That should be clarified.
Yeah, or another way would be or the barren trees that spread their leaves far and wide onto the ground.
Yeah.
Like, basically make it idiot.
Yeah.
So people can't assume the wrong things. People being me. Because everyone else didn't have a problem with this. But I'll move on. Then I asked of him, this is when Nair's talking to the doctor. Then I asked of him, why then, quote unquote, both of us were still breathing what little air we had, but he didn't know. I did, however. We were the Evergreens. So I think this is meaning to have Nair ask the doctor the whole line, because it makes more sense that way, because the way that it's quoted, he's saying, why then? And then then it cuts to the narrator showing both of them breathing what little air they have. Like, meanwhile, I feel like it makes more sense if he was straight up asking why both of us were like, why are both of us still breathing what little air we have?
Yeah.
While everyone else is dead, is what he's asking, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, it's for some reason the author decided to put why then in quotes, like as part of like separate that from what the narrator was saying is it's clearly done for some kind of emphasis, but like it's odd.
But on the phone, he's straight up asking the doctor why both of them are still breathing the air they had, but that whole quote isn't quoted. You know?
No, like I said, like it's doing like why then, but like, and then like for some reason, like I guess for like maybe emphasis for that, it's like to get the reader's attention here. And then it dives into like then he paraphrases what he said on the phone, which is
paraphrase it and then described exactly what he said after. Like, it's strange. Personally, I would like that stretched out a bit because there's not much dialogue in here, anyways, and adding that little bit extra adds a lot, in my opinion.
Fair.
But that's all I got for it.
Okay. Then I suppose we'll move on to actual thoughts. I'm going to start with the image.
I was going to say.
It's perfect.
Okay.
Like, I don't like, to me personally, like it's a pretty good representation of the title and also the early days of the situation that's going to be described in a few moments.
I guess, yeah. I was going to suggest maybe turning up the saturation more.
I suppose,
messing with the blue sky more, because there's a lot of emphasis on how unreal the sky is. Meanwhile, the sky there looks pretty normal.
Well, yeah, because this is sort of like it's showing a photo that like probably
day one or day two.
Exactly, yeah. Like this is day one, and you can see there's an evergreen in there, amidst a countryside of orange, and then like some blue. Yeah, the one thing I might alter is like get rid of the clouds and make that sky all pure blue, like just a pure blue sky. Because that is sort of what's mentioned in the story a lot is like there's no clouds.
Yeah.
But other than that, like to me it was like near damn perfect. Like didn't have any other issues with it.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys have any other issues aside from what Gamer just brought up, or?
No.
Cool. Gamer, do you have anything else on that, or no?
No.
Okay. Then I suppose I'll move on to the next thing I have. That same cold breeze, as sharp and as bitter as a dagger at midnight, still cuts through the piles of shriveled brown bodies that line the streets, and the deep blue hue of the sky has saturated to a shade beyond what any of us could have ever dared to comprehend. I hope the shriveled brown bodies that line the streets are like a flowery description for dead leaves on the ground and not like the townsfolk.
It could be either.
Update.
It could be both, honestly.
Yeah. Update. It wasn't just flowery descriptions. Exactly.
Yeah.
As we find out, because like they're dragging, because like even I think it mentions like near the end, it's like they're dragging the bodies like out to like bonfires and leaving like they're still like lined, like bodies lined on the streets. Like oh, that was foreshadowing. that was foreboding. Yeah. But I'll move on to the next thing here. That afternoon, as the last of the summer's warm breezes clashed against the howling winds of autumn's birthing pains, there was a great storm that rattled the house and shook the trees. dumping a great many leaves into the yard and scattering them about. Wow. Okay, connective tissues time. While I did choose this, like, because it had a fall thing, and like for in preparation for when it gets posted, it'll be like fall and stuff like that. But that was like a couple of weeks ago when I chose it. And then, like, as I was reading this story in preparation for this episode earlier this week, we just had a very warm spell, like basically like a warm like send off to summer in September that ended in a cold intro to fall with lots of rain and wind and lots of new fallen leaves. So I was just like,
Yeah, it was weird. I came in from raking a bunch of leaves and then read this.
yeah, right? Yeah. Like I'm currently waiting for the weather to kind of like dry off the leaves so I can like do a second round of leaf blowing to get rid of the leaves off our property. But like, yeah, no, it's like that because we had like that basically we've had one summer. Yes, what about second summer? Was like
Yeah.
my feelings about like the last couple of weeks, and then that immediately dropped after Canadian Thanksgiving. Like Canadian Thanksgiving, we had like super warm weather, like summer weather kind of stuff. Post Thanksgiving weather, rain, cold decline, like the cold just like literally overnight, it dropped in temperature.
Yeah.
Like where we were worrying we were gonna get snow. So yeah, reading the story, I was like, oh wow, this is almost prophetic. But yeah, that's my connective tissues time. So I'll move on to the next thing here. And that yellow spectre, too, despite having only just arisen, reared his glistening head for what seemed to be only moments before ducking beneath the horizon again and shading the land in pitch black darkness. Thus ended the fourth short day of autumn. So the very shortness of the sun in the sky almost brings to mind there's been a few short-lived ARG series, like spooky like video series and vlog series on YouTube and Twitter that I've seen in the past, of like someone reporting that they're living in a world where the sun is either wrong, like not appearing as it should, or is just vanished outright, and they're just living in a world of darkness. Or that they've been dealing with this like vanished sun, like, oh, the sun vanished for 24 days and no one seems to remember it. Like that was a series on YouTube I was following that didn't really, it's kind of stopped abruptly, but has sort of same idea of like a community dealing with or getting caught in a temporal state that defies logic and physics. So I thought it was kind of interesting. Like that kind of gave me that same vibe as this. And actually, as it goes on, my notes do deal with a lot of like, this story is very cosmic horror. Like what happens when a small town is stuck or trapped in dealing with some kind of like eldritch force or some kind of like unknowable force. May not be eldritch, may not even have any kind of designs behind it. Just some unnatural or cosmic force that is just affecting the world around them. And that actually kind of is a nice segue into my next comment and quotes and comments. When we both had awoken to the brightness through the window blinds, I had wrongfully assumed her complexion to be a result of the strange colors that emitted from outside. I was wrong. Her skin was now the shade of a duckling, as if she were ill from jaundice, and her sunken eyes were the deeper, richer tint of the same color, nearly orange. Her hair had been falling out in clumps, and she had lost a tooth in the night. So I just so the story was giving me off like real serious like cosmic horror vibes and stuff like that. I also can't help but kind of relate this to like The Color Out of Space, which is a Lovecraft story about an alien color that descends down in a meteor and begins affecting a farming family and their land in very strange and anomalous ways before wiping them out and mutating things and then going back up into the sky. It's just kind of like,
color can do that.
Well, yeah, well, that's that's just like it's a color that cannot be defined.
Yeah.
It's that's the only description that the people that see it can like give it is like it's some kind of like energy entity or some kind of energy force or something that was trapped in this meteor, and then it like hatched and it has no physical presence except for like this visual cue that our brains can't really fully comprehend, except that it's a color.
Isn't there like a magical color that wizards refer to as that they can't explain it? It's like a bluish,
Yes,
reddish.
in
whatever.
it's octarine from Terry
Yeah.
Pratchett's The Discworld, which is a purplish limeish green color. But and to be fair, like humans can't, like there are colors humans can't perceive. Like there's a type of shrimp that has like a bunch of like ocular like sensors in its eyes that like allow it to like see like colors that we can't even see on our spectrums. So.
How do we know that it can see that?
Science.
Cool.
Like I can't give you the exacts, but like I know for a fact that like scientists know that this thing can see more colors than we can.
Nice.
Yeah,
I'd love to see new colors.
Yeah, different types
without
of like,
having to use drugs.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But yeah, so like I was getting a lot of like color out of space vibes from this. And I think that actually continues on, but I'll move on to the next thing I have here.
Mm-hmm.
The only hint of greenery to be seen were those few select trees that, for whatever God's reason, never seem to shed their leaves, the evergreens. That's because they specialize needles, not leaves, per se.
Or whatever God's reasons are.
Which are adept for darker and colder climates.
Whatever God's reasons are.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I just like, it's like, those aren't leaves.
It's like, actually.
Yeah. It's like as a Canadian,
Yeah, I was gonna actually him, but I'm like,
yeah,
they're equivalent to leaves.
And then I stepped in with my glasses. Yeah.
No one would actually this. No one would be foolish enough to do that on the internet.
Hold my beer.
Yeah.
But I'll move on to the next thing I have here.
Mm-hmm.
She turned to me with a faded, cracked smile, and I stopped cold in my tracks. My wife was orange, and the thin skin that surrounded her beady, sunken eyes was a sickly brown. They were the same saturated tones as the leaves that fluttered across the lawn. Immediately, I tried to hoist her to her feet, but her weight nearly snapped between my arms. That's okay. She fell back into the seat with another tired cough and shook her head a silent no. I clutched her cold hands in mine, still holding the bell. She took in a breath, which was increasingly harder to do as the fall continued, and gazed up at me tearfully, her lips cracking audibly. I began to weep as she fell into herself. Oh God. So, is it meant that? So I got a couple of things about this little paragraph. Is it meant that people beyond their farm have also been turning into leaves, and that's why there's so many fucking leaves on the ground? Like, it's not just like naturally like from all the trees and stuff and like the forest. It's also because people themselves are just like like breaking up into leaves, or and then like also again, like not meaning to compare works here, but the idea of her like just kind of like slowly desiccating and like turning into this like yellow brown husk and then crumbling in on herself. That description almost fits the bill for the victims of the color out of space. Like because the color out of space, it is discovered as like it's like almost like a radiation. It like causes like an intense alien bloom of like all the local foliage, and then it all starts crumbling apart, including the people and the buildings and stuff, because it's sapping all the energy into itself so that it can grow.
Basically, everything gets Thanos snapped.
Kind of, yeah. And they're not dead until, like, even as they're falling apart, they're not dead. They're just extremely lethargic.
Oh, great.
Like, they are alive as their heads cave in and stuff like that, and like their bodies like fall apart. Like, it's really fucking creepy and cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also like an earlier line that kind of gives off this Color Out of Space vibe. The screaming instead had come from outside, beyond the window, of which rich blue light seemed to ooze into our farmhouse. Again, kind of showing like that this color that like of the sky and stuff like that is not natural at all, as it like almost oozes into their house, like the way he's describing it.
Yeah.
Again, and this isn't me trying to like, oh well, this is clearly just a ripoff of Color Out of Space. No, this is maybe the author took inspiration from that and made this cool cosmic horror story.
Also, like everything's been done at this point. Everything's remixed in one way or another. Well, whether you actually are taking inspiration from it, or if you just think it up, because there's only so many things that can be thought of.
Yeah, and that again, like I'm not like there's no shame in it at all, because like this is a different take on it. Like this is taking the Color Out of Space idea, if that is the case. Although I have to wonder, because one of the tags for this story, it says Halloween Lovecraftian nature, and then like the author's name, MakRalston. So Lovecraftian's right in there in the tags. So I gotta wonder if like maybe there is some like somebody read the Color Out of Space is like, hold my beer. I'm gonna make my own version of it. Which again, kudos, because that is you've nailed it for me. Like, this is a really
put the tags in, or do
I don't know.
People tag it after
it might be the moderators, or it might be the authors.
Or it might be Lovecraftian just in the fact that it's like fucked up and weird.
Yeah, it's that's like it's definitely cosmic horror what's going on to this town or this valley. But yeah, so I was very excited because like I can really dig this whole like Color Out of Space thing going on. And then we get this part here. It was the quote was mentioned earlier, but I'm going to repeat it. He begged of me not to go outside, not to dare smell it, and I questioned him why, but he never gave a cohesive answer. He rambled on about leaves and lungs, the mutual exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide, and how the earth itself was shedding. I then asked of him why then. Both of us were still breathing what little air we had, but he didn't know. I did, however. We were the Evergreens. Okay, so it's like an allegory. The immune survivors to this phenomena are just built differently, and like how evergreens are made different from trees with of a leafy persuasion. Yeah. So
basically all the left-handed people in the world survive.
Yeah, damn it, I'm down. I'm dead.
I
win. I don't feel very good, guys. But yeah, I just thought that was real. Like, I thought that was a really interesting comparison, because it's like, yeah, no, that's really cool. Like the Earth's getting like basically, if this is actually like some kind of like strange cosmic like cycle of the Earth, like just shedding itself of people, then yeah, it would be using this as like a way to cull people to, like the population, so that to a better manageable population. Mm-hmm. Or it's some other force that's doing this, and there just happens to be that a percentage of the population is immune to the effects because they are built different. Like there's just something in their genes or in their body. They are all left-handed.
Yeah.
But yeah, still a lot of questions, but I can dig this like cosmic horror going on here. Like I'm down for it. And then we get this. Unfortunately for old Betsy, though, she was not. Like that's literally okay, this poor dog.
Yeah.
I knew it was going to happen, likely, in the story, but old Betsy held on so long in the story.
Yeah.
I had hope.
I had hopes that she was left-handed as well.
Well, let's continue.
South Pod.
Yeah, South Pod. Yeah. But unfortunately, she's North Pod, and she didn't. Also, the way she dies is like a little horrific. But like, let's move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna add this story to that website. Does the dog make it?
Yeah.
Does the dog die?
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I'll move on from that unpleasantness. Those of us who dared to step outside, perhaps with no alternative, our eyes covered and bodies wrapped in what warmth we had, took to throwing as many bodies as we could manage into the warming bonfires that crackle now, day and night along the hills to rid Valley Glean of the smell that keeps many of us awake. I kind of feel like we should have an explanation, or at least give us a reason as to why no one has left beyond the valley and seen if there's anywhere else that's been affected. Like, if some people have chosen to remain, that's fine. But it should maybe have mentioned that at least one or more people have gone beyond the borders and not returned. Like, the whole story oozes isolation horror on top of the cosmic horror style of this. But why are they isolated? Like, what made
And nothing's
Nair
stopping them from leaving.
Yeah, it's like, what made Nair even question if this was happening everywhere else or not? Because that's actually mentioned in the story. Like, he questions, like, if this is happening anywhere else or if it's just
but he
little
makes
valley.
no roads to try to do that by, like, he doesn't call anyone. I
Yeah,
don't know
well-
the time frame, but he doesn't check
so-
the internet, the news.
Yeah, like CPAP machines like been around since World War II. It's definitely after 68 because he has a Chevy, a 68 Chevy. So like our car's not working.
Yeah.
We know they have them. So like that's there's just some things in this that I think could be addressed with like a bit more near the end of the story, like just like a sentence or two, just like
Not
explain
even near
like
the end of the story. When this first starts happening, we need to know why everyone all of a sudden gets the whole, like, why everyone basically just turns into the "this is fine" dog.
yeah.
Like, then they just stay there and wait until they die.
Oh my God. This is fine dog with all the fire, but all the fire's been replaced with just leaves, orange
Yes.
leaves.
As we heard earlier, all the cars were engulfed by pumpkins.
See, if that would have been explained, like all the cars. Oh my God, it's a Cinderella analog. All the cars have turned into pumpkins.
Wow.
I would love, as ridiculous as that would be, I would love that to be like the explanation there. Is just like it's just all the
Like,
pumpkins just
overnight, a pumpkin grew where there was a car in every single person's driveway, and it grew to a point where it engulfed enough of the car that it couldn't move anymore.
Well, because that would make
It's
sense.
like
because,
nature
like,
is targeting the
your
cars, because like this hurts the environment. Grow a gourd there.
Yeah, it's like the Captain Planet skit. It's like tree. Like, it's like Captain Planet turning people into trees. It's like
Yes.
pumpkin, gourd, corn, pumpkin.
If this was taking place nowadays, though, all the people with like electric cars would survive.
Yeah, of course. Well,
Mother Nature would be like, that one's not hurting the environment. That's fine.
I mean, technically it is like long term because like the lithium mining.
Do you think Mother
the
Nature knows that?
Yeah, probably.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But I it does even say early in the story like the pumpkin vines and like the gourd, like the vines that grow these pumpkins and gourds and stuff like that, like creeped in at an alarming rate through town. So like, yeah, I could see them like just like these things like creeping underneath like cars and stuff, and then just forming pumpkins and just like yeah. So yeah, I was like, just like a little bit, like a few sentences just to like explain why people aren't like trying to escape Valley Glean, or like why they've just decided like or has that maybe been like an effect of the color? It's just like they are like sort of like in the Color Out of Space. The farm family doesn't leave their farm because they've been like struck with a sort of yeah. The smoothest of criminals, the color.
Yes.
You've been struck by a smooth color. Yeah, anyway, but like no, they've been hit with like lethargy. Like they don't want to move, they don't want to leave. Like they're compelled to stay. Because of like the energy that's being drained of them. But yeah, so just some little like tweaks or like some little additions could have like helped that, I think. Just like that little like gripe I have. And then my last quote and comments is going to be this. We pray daily that the warmth of a radiant spring will thaw the once lively town of Valley Glean and end this endless fall. I only fear if an impending spring buds what fauna or flora lie in the wake of autumn and winter's chill back to life. Perhaps this eternal autumn is sparing us from whomever else may spring along with it. I really like that last foreboding bit. Like, very cosmic horror, very Lovecraftian. Love it. Yeah, like, it might be good, or like the springtime might be good if it does come eventually, or some new thing might bud or spring to life in the wake of spring that isn't friendly to humanity. Like, or what if like the people who have died, they grow back as like pod people.
Yeah.
The whole story has this like apocalyptic vibe, and it could almost be classified as like micro apocalypse, which is a subgenre of apocalypse genre that it's like an apocalypse that only happens to a localized area, like a town or say a valley. And again, very much in line with The Color Out of Space. In fact, legitimately, I was like reading this as I finished the story. I was like, I could probably adapt this to Call of Cthulhu or Delta Green, using The Color Out of Space as the mythos force for what's affecting the region. Like, because it's very similar to The Color Out of Space, but it kind of amplifies the region it does and what it does. Like it's definitely got like that presence of that story in this, but it's like kind of taking it in a different angle. It was like, it's not just affecting a farm, it's affecting the entire goddamn valley that this town is in.
Yeah.
Or perhaps even the world. Like maybe what if it's like Earth has just like traveled through a color, like literally a nebula sized color in space. And is now, and that's like why like it's affecting the whole world itself. Yeah, I just really dug it. Like by the end I was like, I'm here for this. Yeah, the dog died, but like they call it Old Betsy. I assume it's a good old hound. It's probably had it's had a good life.
Yeah.
And it's also not the only thing getting killed. Like everything in this town except for like a few handful of survivors is dying, so it's like that's fine.
Yeah, you can't really get into the horror of like the quote unquote realism of it if it's selective.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like it's only targeting humans or only
Yeah, well,
bad
the fact
humans,
that the fact that like as soon as like this thing like started like happening, is like, oh, that we're about to see some like all the farm animals start dying off and stuff, aren't we? And sure enough, yeah, we got that.
That being said, it could have actually just targeted humans, because if it is Mother Nature like calling the Earth, it might be like there's too many humans. The animals aren't fucking with everything. The humans are.
Except that the animals that are being picked off, like all the cattle and all the farm animals and like the dogs, they're domesticated animals. They're not wild animals. So like we don't know what's happening to the wildlife, but
That's
we know
true.
like but we're seeing what's happening to the domesticated life.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's a good
again,
point.
like like that's my thing on that is like, and also like Mother Nature, like for Mother Nature to be that picky of like just picking off humans, like that's fairy tale stuff. Mother Nature is not selective. Like
No.
she definitely works in broad strokes. Just like oh, I need to get rid of this like fly. Nuke. Nuke it from order. It's the only way to be sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, that's the end of my actual thoughts. I was really digging the cosmic horror and really kind of seeing that Color Out of Space bleeding into this story, like through my thoughts as I read the story. But those are just my comparisons. We don't know if the author was inspired by that. It's just kind of an assumption. But Mikey, D stands for evil.
All right. My first actual thought here, I have a quote. She gripped me with one hand, coughed into her other hand. As it trembled, extended the sprinkled red along her yellowed fingers to my eyes. Here's
What?
blood in your eye.
Yeah. Like, okay.
Yeah, what was it
It's just
even describing? Now that I'm
like,
thinking about it.
she coughed up blood, like, because like there's something like basically she's having like some kind of lung infection or like some kind of like that's like
That's what I thought, but
yeah.
why is it referring like to my eyes?
I think maybe like him seeing it or something like
I
that.
guess,
Not
yeah.
actually like, going into it was being poetic.
yeah. Yeah, I understood that it's just showing him, but the fact that moving the hand to his eyes.
Yeah. Here's blood in your eye. Yeah.
Hmm. And then before we got the visual of her sort of collapsing like a leaf or whatever,
Yeah.
I was originally thinking that she was turning into a pumpkin.
Yeah. No. Well,
Yeah,
yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Like I also like again like I thought it was like she was turning into leaves, but I think it's more she's just like turning into a dried husk. But yeah, no.
That being said, it seemed like she was getting heavier because when he tried to pick her up towards the end,
yeah.
she like fell through his arms because she was heavier.
That's true too. Maybe she was kind of becoming like a rotted gourd.
Yeah.
Or like a rotted pumpkin kind of thing. Yeah.
All right. And my next actual thought here is this the beginning of Pumpkinscape?
God damn it. Everything is pumpkins.
Yep. Damn right it is.
Or well, this is certainly it seems like it's the beginning of Fallscape.
Gourdscape.
Yeah, Gourdscape.
Everyone has to be named Gord.
Yeah. God, now I'm just picturing like everybody's just turning into my uncle.
Yep.
Oh, that's no offense to my uncle, but that's horrifying.
Wow. You know he listens to these.
I would actually be impressed if Michael Gord listens to these.
Well, he will now, at least this one. Because he will get back to him.
Yeah, somehow.
All right. So my next actual thought is after he goes outside in his PJs
Yeah.
to
With shoes.
find
He did get shoes.
with shoes. Yeah.
They were slippers, weren't they?
No, I think they were boots, weren't they?
Doesn't matter. Either way.
Yeah.
Anyway, after that, he's talking to the doctor,
Mhm.
and he tells him not to go outside and breathe the air. To which my response is, well, it's a little too late for that advice.
Yeah. Maybe it's like prolonged exposure to the air is a problem.
Well,
But
obviously,
Yeah.
other people are having the same illness that like his wife is having in town, because it seemed like the doctor was getting swamped, like back in town. So
Yeah.
like yeah, it's just like again, this is a small town. It's probably like if I had to guess, it's probably in the 70s. Maybe it's in like the 80s or 90s or now. It's kind of hard to say when this takes place, but like I kind of picture it as like an older time, like post 68. But so like maybe it's just like it's a small town, so like maybe like it's harder and like with all the weirdness and confusion that's going on, it was harder for people to like get word out that like shit's going on, or like people just assume like, oh, everybody else kind of knows like what's going on. Kind of thing.
I kind of hate that though, honestly.
That's fair.
Yeah, and then like we get the first few days, and then suddenly it's like 6 months
Yeah.
later, and my thought process, well, what is he surviving on? And then it's like, oh, he's just eating all the pumpkins and whatnot. It's explained, but the first thought was like he has a CPAP machine, which probably doesn't have any power to use it anymore, and so he's not getting the oxygen that he needs. Yet he still is eating.
Yeah.
And he's eating all the pumpkins. Okay.
It is explained really late.
Yeah.
Like how they're all eating. I feel like that should be brought up a lot earlier.
It's a prioritizing thing in the story.
But this is a story about surviving an apocalypse.
Yeah, it's brought up in the in the intermeeting weeks. Like, I mean, you can assume that like they had some food saved away in their house for like the first week, and then it starts paraphrasing like, oh, it's week turned to weeks turned to months, and now it's been 6 months, and then it kind of goes in eventually like to like what they've been feeding on or eating on and stuff of that.
Yeah. I guess.
All right. So the next actual thought I have here, I have a quote. All we know is that the days grow ever shorter, some seemingly less than mere hours, what used to be hours. So, thinking about it and going to the nth degree, so hypothetically, if the days were to continually get shorter.
Yeah.
So instead of when you hit the winter equinox, they continue to get shorter instead of getting longer again. When you get down to it, it takes about you get about like was it 1 minute every 3 days or something when the days are getting longer on average, which when it gets to the equinox, it's actually closer to like 1 minute every day. So I just did a quick Google search of how long the shortest day is, and got 7 hours and 14 minutes.
Yeah.
So if we assume that the degradation were to continue to approximately 2 minutes a day, then after 6 months, the daylight hours would be 4 hours and 14 minutes.
Yeah.
So, but after doing all this work, I realized, oh, it's just the ramblings of a madman.
Yeah. Well, because like I the way I cast it, I was like, well, what used to be hours? It's like, yeah, like when the day cycle is unreliable as it is in the story, what are hours anymore? Because like our hours are based off of a cycle of the sun rising and falling and like day and night cycles. It's like, yeah.
I mean, at that point, you could still use the old cycle.
But eventually, like
everyone still has clocks set up to it.
Yeah, but eventually, like what, like even like yes, people can still use it and stuff. But at a certain point, some people are just going to break on like, what the fuck is the point?
Yeah.
And just to also continuing, like it. Well, where is the snow? Like, or does this spot not get snow?
So it's Connecticut, so it would get snow, but like that's the thing, like it's in this weird, the world is no longer making sense.
It's in a perpetual autumn. There's no snow in autumn.
Exactly, like it's there's no autumn in there's no snow in autumn in for certain parts of the states.
Yeah. So the other thought here is that this just became suddenly Game of Thrones. Winter is coming.
Oh God. Yeah. That world is so weird too. But anyway.
Got a Game of Thrones creepypasta, then we'll talk about it.
And then for the ending, I really didn't like it.
Oh, okay. Why not?
Because like it's the whole what will spring bring if it does come was like, well, at this point autumn is perpetual.
Yeah.
There will be no spring.
Yeah, well that's but like still people like survivors are still going to have some shred of hope. It's like, well, maybe it'll come eventually. Like they're hoping.
Yeah.
It's like they're
there's hope.
Yeah.
But then it's also saying, oh, but what lurks in the spring that it's going to come with it, like
that. Yeah, that's our nihilistic narrator doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, spring comes, but like, what's gonna grow? Well, like what's gonna if this is what's happening with fall? Like, what happens in spring?
What the way that I saw it is like, if this is what happens in fall, what the fuck's winter gonna be like?
Yeah, true.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
winter hasn't come yet.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just gonna be like
It's just gonna be way worse.
I'm just picturing like so like color out of space takes over fall for a while, or this could not even be the color out of space. It might be the fucking king in yellow. This might be like Earth finally being consumed by Carcosa.
Hell yeah.
Because of all the orange and stuff. Like fall is a very orangey yellow color. So
It's fresh yellow.
yeah. So like that's what's happening there, and then he or should not be named because I'm not saying the name. Just like taps out and like, all right, Athaqua, you're up, and then just tags Athaqua, the Walker on the Winds in, and it's like, all right, endless winter, and we just get like horizontal avalanches or like tidal waves of snow coming across the land.
It'd be a bad time.
Oh yeah, it would be terrible. And then people are turning into like horrible gaunt cannibalistic monsters, and then spring comes where Shub-Niggurath, the black goat of the woods with 1,000 young, who is the creator of all life and all its fecund and terribleness, is what brings up spring. It's like, all right, now that everything's dead, time to bring up my babies.
And then like it.
Yeah, and then Cthulhu, the fire vampire, the lord of fire vampires, will come in for like, all right, you thought the dog days of summer were bad. Hold my beer.
Yeah,
it's
just scorched.
Yeah, basically, yeah. And the cycle is continued anew as the Yithians look on in terrible wonder.
By then, all the humans are dead, right?
Yeah, or worse.
Yeah,
they've been brought back in Shub-Niggurath's image.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like lots of hooves, lots of eyes, mouths, and tentacles and branches. Yeah, it's basically yeah. I've kind of dipped right. I've just dove into the mythos for the story,
and rightfully so.
Yep. But yeah, no, I understand why you guys or why Mikey didn't like the ending, but I'm here for it. Like this is this kind of stories I read, so
Mm-hmm.
This is a lot of Lovecraft stories, like how they end. It's just like downers.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's into my actual thoughts.
All right, Gamer, you're up.
Let's see what I have left. So early on, it says the fall started, just as most often do, with a hot, wet summer that crescendoed into a clangy, thunderous lightning. Mama and I were out rocking on the porch step. She was on the drums, I was on the guitar, when the air began to taste of oncoming rain, and the song of the cicada swiftly stopped like a spinning record without a needle. But yeah, with how many musical references that are already in those sentences, it wouldn't feel far off if they were just out there playing music.
Yeah, it's like Nair's just like, you've been thunderstruck.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, they're actually Mama and Nair are actually the cultists that summoned the eldritch horror of Endless Autumn by accident through their rock.
Yeah.
It's like some Anderson Brothers situation from Alan Wake. Like they called down something and they had to bring they didn't mean to, or they were called to like they summoned something through their music.
Mm-hmm.
But no, that's
Yeah, moving on.
Mm-hmm.
So read for a while, got all the way to day 5, like getting progressively more and more annoyed, because like by day 5, Nair still didn't seem to care. I kind of wish there was some dialogue going on, like, or going into town to see if anyone knows what's going on, because it kind of feels like Nair never leaves his house ever, never doesn't have any friends, and doesn't care that all of this is happening. Like, I don't know about you, but by day 3 or 4 of this extreme weirdness, I'd be trying to see what's going on.
Well, and that's the thing. Like that's you. Like this sort of thing is actually very common in like rural communities, like where they don't go into they tend to keep to themselves.
I guess, but even during like apocalyptic shit like this,
yeah, No, I've like legitimately like a farmer won't go see a doctor unless their like leg is literally off their body. Sometimes, like that's kind of a trend, or kind of a like a might be a stereotype, but it's also kind of like a thing that you hear a lot in like stories that involving like farmers and like getting external help and stuff from things.
Hence why he waited so long to call the doctor in regards
Yeah.
to Mama.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah,
she's
after
coughing up
writing all
blood.
that,
Sorry.
after writing all that, the next paragraph that I read had him call the doctor. Right after me complaining that there was no dialogue.
Yeah.
So as if I manifested it, that happened.
Yep.
Granted, it's because she was really ill at that point, so he was forced to do it. Like, he doesn't want to find out what's going on. He doesn't want to get help.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird to me.
Yeah. No, I understand. I get you. Yeah. Like it seems weird to you, but like that is something that happens. But yeah, I understand why you think it's weird.
But moving.
Okay.
There's some weird noises happening outside. Wakes him up. The screaming instead had come from outside, beyond the windows of which rich blue light seemed to ooze into our farmhouse. I had taken off my coat from the rack and made it a step down the creaking porch stairs. So, something is screaming outside, previously referred to as squealing, so one can assume that something might be scaring or killing your pigs. Where's your gun? You're a farmer.
And you're in Connecticut. America.
Where's your gun?
Yeah.
Like,
Especially
he's just
in like
going
America,
out there
in
with
like
absolutely nothing. Like, maybe he knows kung fu, but probably not.
No, he just walks out in his in some boots or shoes and pajamas. But no, he didn't bring a shotgun or anything like that. Like I call shenanigans.
A little bit, yeah. Because like it wouldn't have done anything, but realistically, probably should if you're investigating a weird noise in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Out in the middle of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if he's trying to protect his livestock and everything, right?
Yeah.
But yeah. But moving on. The air was thin enough already, but when the stretch had seized me... What?
The stench.
Oh, what? It says stretch. I copy and pasted this.
Which episode? What?
Hang on. Outstretched.
There was then. Oh yeah, you're right. But when the stretch had seized me, it should say stench. That's a grammar. That's a grammar inquisition.
I found one.
We got one.
Yeah. Like I absolutely read that as stench.
I read that over too, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Either way,
I think even Mikey got went over that one.
Mm-hmm. We all did. But either way, the air was thin enough already. But when the stench had seized me, I gasped and burst into a fit of coughing and nearly vomited out on the floor. I grabbed the nearby CPAP machine resting beside the bed and pressed it to my lips as if it were a gas mask from the Great War and huffed and puffed. I could, for once in many days, breathe again. Have you not been breathing this whole time?
Wait, you've not been breathing this whole time?
Yeah.
Also, I thought
did like days go by as he's like sitting there in his bed, actually like technically dead, and then the smell woke him up? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Also, the CPAP machine wasn't working because the power was out earlier. So,
yeah,
like,
but then it is.
I don't know enough about CPAP machines to know that if they can like. I don't think they. I think they need to be like plugged in. Oh wait, man. I mean, modern ones.
It's irrelevant.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Okay.
Sorry.
What's weird is if you're gonna say if the power is gonna be fluctuating to the point that it doesn't work anymore, then have it not work anymore. Otherwise, just ignore that and let the guy have it if he needs to have it for the story. I don't understand why it does both and doesn't explain either.
Yeah, that's true.
But to my point here, I could for once in many days breathe again. He has not breathed in many days? Like,
I'm sorry.
I don't understand. Like, I truly don't.
It is.
The only thing I can think of is like I said, something happened and he's legally dead sitting there in bed, and then the weird smell comes in and wakes him up like smelling salts.
Okay, I don't actually think that's the case. I think it's like he's using the CPAP machine like so he has been able to breathe. It's just been like probably shallow breathing for like most of the. Maybe that's why he hasn't left his house and stuff. Is because he doesn't have enough energy, enough air to like in his like going through his body, this system to like do much outside of like move around the house.
So maybe it's I could for once in many days breathe easily again.
Yeah, that's probably what it should say. Yeah.
Yeah. Another grammar one accidentally.
How fucking dare you?
It's fine.
Creeping in
No one
here like that
suspects it.
goddamn color.
No one suspects it. We know this.
Yeah. No, no one expects it, but everyone tolerates it.
Yeah. Including you.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, my last note I actually kind of talked about where it says, like, it's talking about how the fall's ending and, like, spring is what's spring going to bring. And, yeah, winter's going to be way worse. No one's surviving.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good. This is a very bleak story.
It really is.
Like, appropriately so, honestly. But, yeah.
Unless just those that have survived this aren't going to survive any, like,
well, I mean,
anything coming. Like, they're the chosen ones to, like, continue humanity.
Like you said, they are the Evergreens. So, they are like, it's like, that line, like, the way he says it is like, we are the Evergreens. It's like, it's basically the line from Walking Dead where, like, the main character in that, like, I think after a couple of volumes, is like, we are the Walking Dead. Like, saying like the humans who have survived are the Walking Dead because they're just kind of going through the motions of trying to survive.
Yeah.
But yeah, in this case, like it's like that, like maybe these survivors will, or like another maybe like there'll be like another culling of like some of the survivors will get picked off by the endless winter, and then like the survivors will for some reason the survivors will be able to cope with the cold and survive through winter. So like maybe it will be a small tribe of humans by the time they reach the eternal spring.
Also, I gotta say, you gotta stop calling them eternal or an endless, because they're not
I know
endless when they stop.
Hey, the story suggested that there will be a spring. All right, so
oh yeah. As far as we are concerned in this story, it is literally an endless fall that will never ever end.
Yeah.
It's the fall that never ends.
It just goes on and on, my friend. Some people started dying. Some people started sickening, knowing what it was, and they'll continue sickening until they all die.
Just because.
Oh wow! All right, so yeah, that's the end of your. Okay.
Yes.
Well, let's move on to final thoughts. Still going to recommend it. It's an autumn-themed cosmic horror scenario. In more ways than one. like it's a scenario in like an idea or like a situation in the story, but also it's very good fodder for me to potentially use for a Cthulhu game or Delta Green game.
Oh yeah, we got through your notes without talking about tabletop RPGs at all.
I did mention at the very end of my actual thoughts about like using it for Delta Green or Call of Cthulhu.
Never mind. Leave that in, that's fine.
Yeah, there's a few things I'd like added or like for clarity and such, but otherwise it was a cool concept, and I even enjoyed the overall bleakness of it. It was sufficiently Lovecraftian for me, so that's why I'm going to recommend it. Is like it was. If this was inspired by like Lovecraftian stuff and like the color out of space and all that, they did a fine job at conveying that. So
Lovecraft would give a hard thumbs up to this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Mikey, D stands for evil.
All right. Well, I also got color out of space vibes, and what was it? Like everything dying, and yet he's still alive, even though he's breathing the air, because there's something in the air apparently. And
it's the color.
Sorry. And I would have liked it to have gone the way it was mentioned earlier, that the domestic animals are dying, but why not have like wild animals show up? And like this story to me seemed very Thanksgiving oriented. Mm-hmm. So I really would have liked a giant turkey.
Yeah, the rise of the turkeys, just like because turkeys are that fine line between wild and domesticated. Because yes, farmers domesticate turkeys for like Thanksgiving dinners and stuff like that, but turkeys exist in the wild like naturally, like they are out there and stuff like that. So
Cows are too, and pigs, aren't they?
No, but cows and pigs are definitely deep-seatedly like domesticated. Like they were in North America, they were imported from like the Europe and like the old world and such. Like
really?
turkeys are actually from North America.
Okay.
Yeah. Now you get like Hogzilla or whatever that's wild and
But those are just basically those are domesticated pigs that have bred with wild boars that have just become like monsters.
I think that's what I was confusing it with, was boars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. So it was an okay story. I just didn't like the ending because with my calculations earlier about the world tilting and the days getting shorter and shorter, there's something really going on with the world.
Yeah.
For the days to continue getting shorter, it means that the world is off its axis.
It's either off its axis or it's just getting its orbit's just accelerating away from the sun.
Well, with the days being shorter, wouldn't that mean that it's spinning faster? That's what causes the days. It's the spinning.
Well, actually,
of
there's
the Earth
also
itself, the rotation.
also if the axis was moved, it would also alter like the days and such as well.
Like
For a certain area anyway. Yeah.
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 Because like that's why like up in the north, like in Alaska and such, that's why they have 28 days of night. Like they have a whole month of night because, and then like they have like they have times where like the sun doesn't like actually go down for days on for like weeks on end. So because of the axis of the Earth, and like the position of like how the Earth like is rotating and like in view of the sun. So.
You know what I thought about just now that I didn't think about before and wish I had a note on it, but I can bring it up now?
Sure.
If this is all happening here, is there like elsewhere in the world what's going on? Like is there an eternal winter happening somewhere else simultaneously at the same time?
And that's the thing, like we don't know because this is a localized horror for right now. Like the story is only showing us the lens of this valley in this town. So But like there could be an endless winter going on the other side of the world right now.
Yep. It's basically like the world is turned into like a video game planet where it's one
different seasons.
One season all the time.
Yeah, there's different zones now.
So this is the desert zone. This is the winter zone. Doesn't matter when you get here. That's what it's going to be.
Yep. Could have sworn it was summer when I walked between zones. Like, no, it's winter now. There's a fine line of just snow and green grass.
Yep.
Yeah, so I didn't really care for the ending. Like I said, like, oh, we're in a bad situation, but will it be worse when spring comes? It's like, well,
I don't think spring's coming, but I think that's a little hopeful.
Yeah.
I'd be worried about the next season, not the next season. Yeah.
Yeah, I like how I do. Yeah, sorry.
Well, I'd be worried about the next day.
Yeah.
Because they're surviving.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope they're like pickling some of those veggies those gourds and veggies that they're eating, because like if they like they have he's just guessing that like they're just gonna skip past winter and go into spring.
It's weird that he assumes that though, honestly.
Yeah. And then there's the other thing, like the food. Like, yeah, you're surviving on just these veggies, but that you're going to be missing some nutrient.
Well, yeah,
that
like
you probably really need.
But I mean, that's also like an apocalypse situation. Like, yeah, like I mean, at some point there's going to be some like they're probably not doing good, but they're like they're surviving for now.
They're not managing their like macros and micronutrients and shit. Yeah. They're just trying to not die.
Who knows? Maybe some beans are also growing on top of like the corn. It says like corn, gourds, and pumpkins are like flourishing, and so that's what they're feeding off of. Maybe there's some lentils, which will give them the proper proteins they need. But yeah, you're right. It's like or it's like, fortunately, we won't have to worry about meat. We've seen some birds, although they're the size of cars. The turkeys are coming in. We can finally hunting season. And then the next it's like, oh god, it's hunting season, but we're the hunted.
Yeah.
We're like raptors.
Yeah.
Just hear like a horrible like gobble gobble sound like off in the distance, like a horn sounds like they're coming. Get to shelter. The turkeys. The terrakeys.
Terrakeys. Wow.
I could not resist.
Well done, sir. You've learned well. But I feel like as soon as you do that, it becomes ridiculous and not scary anymore.
I mean, that's subjective.
Yeah. Like being as usual.
Yeah.
Being in that would be terrifying, but
Yeah.
as an outside source, it seems ridiculous.
Yeah, depending on how it's actually conveyed. Like I'm generalizing, it's like, oh, like I'm giving it like that plot is like generalized. Somebody could write that to be fucking terrifying.
Yeah. It's like with the Harbinger experiment and DK mode.
Yeah.
Seeing that third person perspective, I was laughing and it was ridiculous. But seeing it in real life, it'd be fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so overall, I'm still only going to partially recommend this.
Okay. And Gamer.
That's me. So overall, I did like it. It was a good, easy read. It was well written. I only had a couple of speed bumps along the way where I had to think about what's going on and make assumptions, which I hate doing. But overall, it was still pretty good. At first, I didn't know how this was going to get creepy, or how this was going to become an actual problem, that it's fall forever. Like, if it's just a normal fall forever, it's like, okay.
But then there's some things that's like, oh, that's how it gets a problem.
Yeah, it did up the ante for the horror, for sure. Pretty much most of my questions got answered by the end of the story in regards to, like, food and community and all that, but I feel like it should have been brought up earlier. And,
yeah, for sure.
Like, even him not wanting to talk to other people, like, it should mention that he's self-sufficient. He doesn't like talking to other people and asking other people for help or something like that.
Yeah, like maybe even you could even include it like subtly with like against my my lifetime of judgment, I decided to call the doctor.
Yeah,
like something like
does
that.
Does he not go into town to get supplies and shit?
Yeah, we don't.
And,
no, it didn't say like him and Mama went took a walk out into town, and like the kids were running through the streets and stuff. So they do go into town.
Hey,
that was like day 1 or day 2. I think they like went for a crisp fall walk through town.
Yeah, early on, but like when shit hit the fan,
they will.
Because going back into town when shit's hitting the fan, you could see what's happened to the town. Like, I'm assuming the grocery store would be raided, and like
there's no more children wandering through walking through the streets celebrating with the fall leaves. Because except why are there mounds of leaves on the streets? Like, ugh.
Yeah, that whole like body situation very early on could be clarified with a very clear visual in that part where he gets back to town and there's just dead bodies everywhere.
Yeah. They got down with the sickness.
Yeah.
Moving on.
There's a song that had like dead bodies everywhere in the chorus. I don't remember.
Let the bodies hit the floor?
No, it's not important.
Okay. Sorry.
I'm looking it up though.
Okay.
Oh, it's by Corn, of course. Of corns.
Of course.
And corn grows during this.
During
this apocalypse.
We got our connective tissues.
There's a theme song for this story.
Yeah.
Corn does dead bodies everywhere. Yeah. But overall, I did like the story. The few things that bugged me about it weren't really enough to sour the mood, maybe a little bit. So very high partial, because overall I did really like it, and there's only a couple things that could be changed, but it wasn't enough to make me annoyed enough to make it a partial.
Okay. Well, I guess that'll do it for this week's episode. So, a recommendation and then 2 partial, or was it still a recommendation for you there? Then?
I don't know, man. Make it a partial, fuck it.
Well, take that with what you will.
I am finding fault with it. There are things that I would like changed with it, so by definition, that means partial for me.
Okay, fair enough.
Doesn't mean I didn't like it, though.
No. So, take that with what you will. That has been this week's episode. If you like what you heard, or if you didn't, leave us a comment in the comment section below, wherever this gets posted. We're all on Twitter. Mikey is at the E stands for evil. The Gamer and Yell is at the Gamer and Yell, but without that W at the end because his name is very long.
Yeah, it's a bit at this point. I don't have a choice.
Yep. And I'm at Review Cultist. I am also on Blue Sky, so you can talk to me there, or take a look at the creepy drawings and stuff I post there, or some of the links and stuff I post.
Is Home
if you'd
Slice
like,
there?
Home Slice is there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, as of this, you can check out a Home Slice, the Bog Monster from our episode where we read the Bog Monster, and I was inspired to draw the monster
that we unofficially called Home Slice.
Well, yeah. So you can check that stuff out there on my profile. You can also send us emails at aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's ALDENTERIGAMORTIS@gmail.com, where you can also leave suggestions for other creepypastas, SCPs, spooky things. You creep it, we'll peep it. Yeah! And if you'd like to help support our show financially, you can go to Patreon. Select the backer tier you'd like to support us at. We have $2 and $5 tiers for special episodes, early access, extra content. For our listeners that are helping support the show, thank you immensely. You're helping keep those hosting bills at bay. And as always, we very much appreciate that. And to our listeners and the authors of these stories, thank you immensely, because without your listenership, it'd be like screaming into the void blue sky. And if you didn't write these stories and share them online on the various creepypasta websites and such, we really wouldn't have much of a show because we'd have nothing to talk about. So, thank you. Until next time, I have been your host, Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey, the stands for evil.
And I'm the Gamer in Yellow.
And this has been Al Dente Rigamortis. Sleep well.